I have an old channel on YouTube. I decided I want to make a new one. The old one's just like a few clips of me on a few road trips and that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I thought I want to make a new one. Kind of treat it as a diary, even though it's going to be absolutely nothing like a diary, because diary is supposed to be private and everyone's going to be able to look at this. But anyway, regardless, I'm going to do it. So apparently it's more difficult to create a new channel on YouTube. Now they partner with Google and there's all sorts of weird things. Right now, I'm not even sure if I could change my channel name. Again, this is Gene Bradford. That's my new Google profile I made for the YouTube account. But I really want the name 3 Cat 1 Lion, which is what I thought was going to be the channel name, because that's the new Google username I punched in, and apparently it's not. So I got to figure out what the deal with that is. But if you want some backstory on the title of 3 Cat 1 Lion, I work at a grocery store now. I've worked at a grocery store for about, I don't know, a long time. Almost a decade off and on. And I left, I got another job, and I came back. I left, I got another job, and came back. And I used to work, at my last job that I worked for about a year and a half, regardless of work environment, we always come up with these hypothetical scenarios to ask each other. They're usually pretty ridiculous, but it's actually quite amusing to talk about because you get a lot of introspection on how people feel about things, and it's fun. It's just amusing. But anyway, 3 Cat 1 Lion comes from one of my favorite questions, personal favorites, is you're talking to people and you're like, okay, let's say purely hypothetically, if you're in the woods, would you rather fight 1 mountain lion or 3 bobcats at the same time? And now you might be like, that's ridiculous, blah, 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 and you might have your reasons for it or not, but, I mean, it generates some decent debate, and actually, regardless of what you say, I'm going to judge you, because I've got very strong opinions on the matter of what I think the correct answer is, and I can make a very strong argument for my stance, but I'm not going to tell you what my answer to that question is right now. I feel like, it'll cloud, it'll cloud my video, I feel like. So at some point, and if you want to comment, be like, hey, definitely want to fight 3 bobcats, or I definitely want to rather fight 1 cougar and provide your reasons, that would be excellent. I'm not going to do so right now, but I think that would be really cool. Anyway, I deal with a lot of people at the grocery store. At my previous job, which I'm not going to tell you what I did yet, that'll come later, deal with people all the time. I mean, people eat food, so it's a cool, I work in the produce department. It's like a cool, laid-back kind of job. You see a ton of people. And it's crazy, like just the type of stuff that happens and the type of people that come in, the type of stuff they do is hysterical. So that's kind of the main reason why I'm making this video. And there's some weird crap that happens. I usually, I travel quite frequently. I have a lot of interesting hobbies. I would think they're interesting. I do a lot of stuff. I'm a pretty social person. I'm a people person. And I don't know, this crazy stuff happens. And I mean, I feel like I want to share it with a slightly larger audience than the few people I actually, share with currently. So anyway, so if you want to hear this is my first interesting anecdote from working at the grocery store that I work at. Yeah, so I love Chinese food. I eat Chinese food all the damn time. I mean, all the time. And a good friend of mine who, sadly, he just moved to Indiana about, I don't know, 6 months ago, and we miss him. I've got a core group of friends I've had for a very long time. And he was part of that unit, and I mean, he's going for his doctorate. He's very successful. I mean, it was the right call. I think he's buying a house. I mean, it was the right call, but we miss him. But regardless, there was a Chinese joint right down the street from his house that him and I would always go to. I still go to it. And we pretty much owned the place. I mean, that's how often we were there. It was like we were co-owners. He had half, I had half. We call in an order, and they knew who it was already. They knew what we wanted. They'd give us free stuff when we came in. They were great people. Anyway, that Chinese joint a long time ago had a certain name and a few different owners, and they ended up selling it to their family members. So it kept in the family, but they changed the name, changed the menu a little bit. But I mean, the food's still great, and they still know us because it's like in the family we came closer with this people. The cousins or whoever it was, they bought it. But at the original establishment that we started going to, same family again, it was like a mother and daughter I'd see in there all the time, and they're really awesome. And they would ask about how my sisters were doing, because, they'd come in with me sometimes, and like how my family was doing, if I was dating someone at the time, how my girlfriend was doing. They're great people. We talk all the time. Anyway, I haven't seen them for a long time. I think they might have moved after they sold the business to their cousins. I was at the grocery store the other day working. with my assistant manager in the produce department, who's a good friend of mine and he's a great guy. But anyway, we were kind of chatting. I'm putting up bagged carrots, right? Like the full size, not the baby carrots, the bagged carrots, and there's this big section of them. You put them up and whatever, right? But anyway, I kind of look, it's snowing outside. You'd think no one would be in the grocery store, but there's tons of people, regardless. Anyway, I look over, I'm talking to Mike, I look over, and I see the mom and the daughter of I haven't seen them in a long time, the people that originally owned the Chinese joint. And they're like, oh, hey. And I was like, hey, and it was weird because the woman and the daughter are walking up, and she's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? But she's like reaching her, you can't see my arm, but she's reaching her arm out like she's going in for a hug, right? Which is, I mean, they're great people, but it wasn't a hugging relationship by any means. So I was kind of taken aback, but I hesitated for a moment and then, reached in and gave her a hug, and it was super awkward. I mean, it was weird. It's really weird, right? And then she backed off and she's like, oh, I'm glad you're doing well and all that kind of stuff. And then she grabs a bag of carrots. Like, she reaches up and grabs a bag of carrots. I realized in that moment that she was not going for a hug. She was reaching for the bag of carrots that are currently putting on the shelf. And like an idiot, I thought she was coming in for a hug, and I made this entire situation completely awkward. And it was terribly awkward. I was like, oh, and then I hid in the back. I walked in the back and hid until they left. I mean, I was like, oh, good scene and that kind of stuff. But it was super weird. It was super awkward. They're great people, but it was weird. But anyway, so I felt like a complete fool. I felt like a fool. But anyway, I went back and talked to my assistant manager, again, good friend of mine. And I was like, man, that was super awkward. I thought she was, gonna hug me. And she was just reaching for carrots. It was really weird. And he was like, I would have called it the same way. I thought she was going for the hug too. And then, just watching was awkward. I left, because it was so awkward. It was bizarre. But anyway, that's the amusing story that happened the other day. And I've got all sorts of them. I currently have compiling a list of just crazy stuff that's happened. That's not crazy. It's just awkward. And it was funny. But all sorts of random stuff. I'm probably going to share them with you. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is my first video, so I hope you liked it. And anyway, tune in. I'll see you guys later.